Hi everyone. This is a video response to Missy Jenn's video I happened to see at lunchtime today, transitioning and male to female and being treated as a second-class citizen. And yes, the second-class citizen was the term I've used, and Missy Jenn and I have had some discussions, particularly so over the last couple weeks, of things that have made us feel like we're getting screwed simply because we're now living and presenting as female. And this is a theme that any of you that have been on the Rosie O'Kelly channel for any length of time will know that I've touched on this point periodically. And it's particularly when you run into younger male salesmen, when a guy 25 years old calls you honey, or hold on a minute honey, or honey, you just don't understand anything about these stereos. You don't understand anything about these computers. Just have your boyfriend stop by after work and, we'll talk about it. Or, don't you have anybody else with you? Didn't you bring the decision maker with you? And they're looking around, and I am the decision maker. And by about the spring of this year, I decided to start making some changes, and I'm really sorry that Missy Jenn and I weren't chooching and knowing each other at that time, because what I started to do really helped me a lot. And well, let me tell you what happened yesterday. I went to apply for the building permits again, and we started hemming and hawing at the counter, and they're nitpicking over deficiencies that I have in my presentation, and some real slob guy came in, contractor, with stained white undershirt, and dropped these sloppy plans on the counter, and they had chocolate thumbprints and fingerprints on them. They looked like they had been done with a crayon. And I looked over at them, I just shook my head. And the lady behind the counter looks at him a second, looks at him and says, "Oh, okay, this is fine. These look great." And I'm thinking it looks like a third grader designed the project. And I come in with very nicely done and scaled drawings of buildings and electrical load diagrams. And every step of the process, I've had a really difficult time being taken seriously over there. It's been who's next? They call your name, Rosie O'Kelly, that's me, and they just, oh, hi honey, what can we do for you today? And automatically you just sense that vision starts to go down, down, down. When you sit at the counter, and yesterday the same things got called up to the counter, and it's a woman about 40 years old. And she says, "Honey, what are you here for today?" "Well, obviously I'm here for a building permit." "Well, don't tell me you're going to do work yourself." "Yes, I'm renovating my outbuilding. I'm revising the plans again for the 43rd, the umpteenth time." And she just shook her head. She looks them over. And this is, I'm thinking to myself, remember Crayon Boy just brought in something that looks like he finger painted the drawings. And she says, I hope these are sufficient now. You've taken enough time. You've wasted enough of the department's time with this project." And I kind of lost it. And for me to lose it, I don't scream. I said, "You know what? I want to see a supervisor right now." The supervisor came in, and I said, "Just come in here. I've tried for over a year to get this permit. It took forever to get the sewer hooked up, and it's been forever to try to get this permit just to simply approve the work that's been done out there, so I can insulate and sheetrock the outbuilding." And I said, "I'm just being disrespected here at the counter." I had, 2 minutes ago we had Chester come in with, contractor Chester come in. It looked like he exploded lunch all over his shirt, right? And he turned in drawings that looked like they were done with finger painting, just roughed out things and all that. And I said it was perfectly fine. The woman looked at that, looked at Chester, and did everything but salute him. I come in again with all these revised drawings, which are scaled properly, and all the engineering, the load diagrams, the load ratings on the ceiling, with the having raised the ceiling internally and recalculating load values for the roof. And I said, what's the problem? Well, he said, maybe you shouldn't be doing this kind of work is the problem. And I said, why not? And he just froze there because he stepped right into the snare, right? The trap goes up, there he goes up in the air. And he just sort of stopped for a second and he looked at me and he said, do you have any experience doing this kind of work? And I said to him, look, according to the city code, it's not your job to ask if I have the ability to do this work. Owner-occupiers, owner-contractors have the right, owner-occupants have the right to do their own work and have it inspected fairly by an inspector. So for you to ask me if I can do this work, and I'm assuming because I'm a lady sitting here in front, oh yes, that's exactly why. We don't have many chicks come in here that want to sling drywall and do their own electrical load diagrams and all that. I said, look, I've been through the mill over here with you guys, and I'm always getting a shaft when I'm trying to get something done over here, and I want these drawings approved. And I said, you know what, I want to see the general department manager right now. So he kind of shook his head like, oh shit, here we go. Here we go. And the general manager came out, and of course hey, how you doing, Rosie? Not so good. I'm having a lot of problems being respected and getting my stuff submitted over here. Well, I never heard anything about it. I just thought that you were revising the project. I said, no, everything I've been tried to do has been denied here. Over and over, nitpicking. And here's contractor Chester coming in, and it looks like he just did spin art on a big blueprint and turns that in, and it's all good. So he said, let me see what Chester submitted, and he just shook his head and he said, well, that's typical Chester. We kind of know what he means when he turns this stuff in. And I said, well, I'm much more exacting in what I'm turning in than contractor Chester. And I would like you to just forget that I'm sitting here as a female and just look at the drawings. And he sat there, he pulled the chair out. And the other people are kind of looking sheepish now because they knew the gig was up. And he says, hey, these look really good quality. I've never seen them before. They've never made it to my final approval desk. I said, they probably never even made it out of the first level over here. Because I said, quite simply, I don't think they like the idea of me doing my own work. Well, we like to keep contractors employed. He does a higher level work. You don't have the liability. I said, look, do owner occupants have the right to do their own work or not? Well, of course they do. So that's it. He said, enough said. I'm going to streamline this process through. Shook my hand and apologized. Turned to the other two people that had been on the project several times. Said, I want to see you in my office at 1 o'clock after lunch today. So who knows, dog and pony show. But the point is, one of the things that I learned to do in springtime when I'm dealing with salespeople in particular, and you may find this a benefit too, is get things in writing and do your research ahead of time. Like, let's back up, like Missy Jenn. I mean, you go into like a phone store, a Verizon or a T-Mobile store, you kind of depend on the person to steer you the right way, but that person oftentimes has a different objective than you do. When it comes time to you buying a phone, their objective is to sell you a phone. And they know where the high margin things are, and they know where the high inventory is. And if they don't have a vested interest in selling you the right phone, unless it's your cousin, your brother, your sister, father, somebody that really cares. So in that regard, you almost have to know beforehand what you're getting into. And when my screen cracked on my HTC One, and I went through 3 or 4 phones, after the first one I took it over to the store when the screen was cracked, and the sales lady over there, the manager, came out, oh, no worry, we'll waive the charge for replacing the screen. It probably shouldn't have cracked like that. We'll send it to the manufacturer. And I said, I want something in writing from you that I'm not going to be responsible for this replacing this screen, except for the $5 processing fee. She hemmed and hawed. She got on the phone 20 minutes later and said, it's either that or I just go with California lemon law because this thing's a piece of junk. Okay, so she took out the back of her business card, and she wrote on the back, I agree, the date, I agree, Rosie O'Kelly will not be liable for the replacement charge for the screen on her HTC One. They didn't sign that. I put it in my purse. I walk out. Okay, I walk out with the new phone. They send the other one back. Lo and behold, 3 months later, I open the T-Mobile bill, and sure enough, there's a $155 charge for replacing the cracked screen. So I called up T-Mobile, and I'm like, Mary Ann over at the store said I wouldn't be responsible. Well, she had, I don't know. I don't think, you really think that she would say something like that? I said, yeah. And they said, well, it's kind of your word against hers, and the phone looks like it was abused or something. I said, look, I got something signed from her on the back of her business card guaranteeing me that I won't be held responsible for the cracks that occurred in this screen on this return. That's a different story. Process. We're going to reverse that right away. We're going to give you a $25 credit too for next month. Because I had something in writing, it saved me. If I couldn't get it in writing, I'm not doing the deal. And the other thing is appropriate for Missy Jenn. When she went in and she depended on salespeople in a car dealership, and I know a lot of people are laughing and saying, car dealers, car salesmen, they're cockroaches, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've known some good ones and I've known some not so good ones. But again, their objective is not to help you buy a car. Their objective is to sell you a car for the highest profit that they can possibly make. And when 3 people up and down the line said, Missy Jenn, look, if you have trouble making the payments, just pop in, bring the car in, we'll work something out, we'll take it back. We'll get you something more affordable. Well, the bottom line is she can afford it. But, she felt like at that time she might be in a pinch because she had to cover off her own medical. She had hip surgeries and, she does pretty damn much everything out of her own pocket, okay? So she thought if I get in a squeeze, it's nice to take the car in. So she goes to take in the car and they don't even know her. You can't get the bosses out. The big boss, no, he's on vacation. He's in Tahiti. The manager's off in North Carolina. The senior salesman is at the Mark Twain Festival in Hannibal. They can come up with a million excuses. And pretty soon you just get frustrated and I got screwed. So I always say, get it in writing. On company letterhead, signed and dated, and you will be in good stead. Do we get treated a lot as second-class citizens? Yeah. A lot of times, I can't tell you, I've often talked about being honeyed and baby doll and other things, especially by women, and it gets kind of irritating sometimes because when somebody says, whoa, just slow down, baby doll, I'm here to help you, you just know automatically the level of their perception of your intelligence just took a couple pegs down there. So beware. And Missy Jenn, that was a great upload. It's something that all girls should be aware of when you transition to realities of the perception of you will change in the world. And when I was a male, just like Missy Jenn said, when she was a male, I had no problem getting respect. I mean, it just came with the territory, and you took it for granted. So I hope you appreciated this upload today. And once again, Missy Jenn, great upload. And thank you, everyone, for watching today. Have a great afternoon.